I'm so excited for this module, but I was jamming to the song and I just want to play it. Okay. I always get weird with like musics in the beginning of stuff and like how I want to do these intros. So let me know what the fucking vibe is. But this is from the playlist if you guys haven't seen it yet. We have a Sacred Singlehood playlist. That's a friggin' vibe. Okay. But I am so excited for today because this module is literally the core of this work, right? It's the in-between. It's navigating the in-between. We're talking about creating certainty in uncertain moments. That is what Sacred Singlehood is. I've said this till I was blue in the face. You don't have to be single to be in this space. It's just this act of how do I create this interdependence? How do I, grow to be independent? How do I know and love and become this version of self? Hi, baby. I'm so excited you're here. I was just doing a little intro. And so this whole module today is all around, hi, I get to see your face. All around creating certainty in the uncertain moments, which is exactly what Sacred Singlehood is. This is all around how do we navigate these in-between moments? How can we identify what our body is feeling and doing, and really mastering this completion? Because I was actually just talking with Sexy Man about this weekend around how we actually have this like wild kink of like chaos that we keep continued in our life, but yet like our cerebral brain wants consistency and certainty, and sometimes we get caught up in this. So I'm going to be talking all about that today, exactly where I need to be right now. I love you. So I'm so happy that you're fucking here. I am so happy I chose. And I am coordinating other time zones because people are jumping in, and so it's really fun, and I'm excited for you to meet them. And so just to recap what we talked about last time, we talked around nutrition, and we talked how this is a core element of getting started. So let me know how that's going for you. What's coming up? Have you been applying these things? We talked about hot, cold, silence. We talked about halt, don't make any decisions if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. We talked about, just really expanding on these systems and these practices, because this is the core element, and getting these kind of foundations in place really open up the capacity to be able to hold the uncertainty, which is the core of this. Definitely been more mindful of staying fed some time in silence and noticing what state of it. I love that so much. Been hanging an ER stage. I love these names. So that's actually what I wanted to start with today, is just one of the things that I know as high achieving women, because I do this fucking too, like so much so when I'm in a program or I'm in a container, I want to absorb everything so much. And I'm so adamant about like, how can I get this so I can go use this? And it's really, that's masculinity, right? And so I'm asking in this program, for whether it's you or anyone watching the replay, like practice being in the feminine, like receive all the codes that I'm going to be giving today. And I actually had this in I'm doing this somatic heart experience thing. And I love the way that he delivers his workshops. The entire thing is a meditation. And so I kind of want to start with that practice where it's meditating with your eyes open. So you're continually taking 4 breaths in, or 5-second breaths in and 5-second breaths out, and like holding that being, like sitting here right now and like grounding and releasing any of the tension that's in your feet or your ankles or your calves or your knees, the hips, the stomach, like just releasing. I know this is the middle of the day, and so we've had things happen. We've run our businesses, we've had kids, we've done the thing. Maybe you didn't have a kid, but a kid did something. But like all these things have happened in our life. And if you did have a kid and you're here, holy pickles. But like, sitting in these spaces and remembering this whole time, like notice your breath. 5 seconds. This whole thing is the meditation. And it's witnessing and it's practicing how to do this even with our eyes open. Because oftentimes the only time we're meditating is if we give ourselves the 20 to 1 hour, however long your practice is, in the morning, and then we're forgetting to do it throughout our day. And the one thing about life is we can only control our state of our body, right? So practicing that in these containers where it's like, receive the codes, receive what's coming through, and let this be the meditation. Landing here, releasing whenever, opening whenever. And I will try to remind you, but sometimes I channel and I get lost in this, and I've been trying to do this more in my teaching. So I will try, but this is more so what I want to witness today, because with uncertainty and these codes, and this is why I was like jazzed as fuck about bringing this here today, is there's a lot of uncertainty. And we even see it in our peer mastermind. Am I doing this right? Am I doing enough? When is this pain going to leave me? I have been doing this program for this long. Why isn't it working yet? It's like we're in this time crunch of I'm doing the work and yet I don't fully trust it. Right. And the biggest lesson that I've learned over these last 6 months, for myself included, like I was actually thinking that today, where my spiritual healer, um, when I went through my breakup, when everything started to crumble, we officially broke up, whatever, in April. But like when it started to crumble and I had been chatting with her, she's like, I'm so excited to see where you're going to be at come New Year's Eve. And like this New Year's Eve, I'm going to like a fucking gala and like all dressed up and like going on a date and like all these kind of things. And like that wasn't the fucking plan. Right. But what was going to happen because of my breakup, I was like, I'm just going to go move to Costa Rica. I'm going to go do what's certain. I'm going to go do my cycle of completion that I know what to do, which is run away from my problems, pretend I'm doing self-help in a jungle somewhere, and go and quote unquote find myself. But really, I'm just running away from my problems. And then I come back and I'm just cycle repeating. And I caught myself in that loop. And I was like, what if I actually, for this season of my life, let myself be surprised and like did what I don't normally do? And that's when I started leaning into faith and I started leaning into these practices and realizing that certainty and uncertainty are actually masculine and feminine. Creating certainty and relying on this aspect of control, which as high performing fucking women, we love to control everything. What numbers are doing what, where do things go? We want everything to look a certain way because we love our babies so much, which is our business or our numbers or whatever we're in. We want to control it because it's ours. And that's the masculine container. And it's not bad. It just means we care, which is fucking beautiful. And that's the right thing. But the uncertainty is actually where the magic is. That's where that feminine essence is. It's leaning into where can you surprise me? And oftentimes when we're leaning out, like we say these things, I have said these things for a decade of my life. I'm so ready. I love things that are uncertain, like open to the surprises of life. And it's like, not actually, because I was afraid. I was afraid of surprises because past trauma had taught me that if something is a surprise, it usually wasn't good. And it usually was chaotic. And it usually meant something was wrong. And so it was really playing with this navigation of what does uncertainty mean, and diving more into uncertainty meant I had to really fully trust my fucking self every single step. But because of the past programming and because of my fucking nervous system, I didn't. And so I can put all these tools and these systems in place like I did my business, but the root of it was I wasn't really understanding myself. And so I wanted to cover, it literally started with 5 topics that I wanted to cover today, and now it's 10. So if I go over on this, we'll just add an extra module. But there was just a lot that came through, and especially from these last 6 months where like it feels like there's been like 800 lifetimes that have happened. And so I really want to cover this at length since this is the core of things. And so one of the biggest things that I see in this arena, in love and recovery and healing and all these kind of things, is that some of us don't like to admit that we're actually addicted to chaos. We are addicted to the survival complex where our numbers are up and down, and that actually is cerebrally pisses us off. But in our subconscious memory, like that actually feels really good because we get to let things dip just enough to then go repair it. I did this with my numbers. I do this with my old relationships. Like this was a big one in my relationships. I would want to, like, if things were going good, I was like, how can we fuck this up? Like, how can I create a dramatic experience to the point of I didn't want things to be predictable anymore. I wanted to cause some type of fight or some type of chaotic thing, but I didn't know this is what I was doing. Right. So this might not land for you right away, but trust me, you'll be like sitting on a rock somewhere, staring maybe in a jungle, and it'll click one day where you're like, oh shit, that like this was me on the plane. This was me on the plane where it was like still, I have this like kink for rejection and abandonment and these parts of me that like, this is what I'm doing. Like, this is why we complete these cycles. And this is what birthed 5 extra fucking points in this. But it's looking at where are we actually addicted to this chaos? And can we, instead of looking at that through a lens of shame, witness it like a fly on the wall, as if you are your own coach or mentor or whatever, witnessing this thing of like, oh, I am in my survival complex. right? I did this with nutrition. I did this with health. I did this with all the kind of things we do this where it's like, we think we can't have it good, right? And it has to be that we earned it. Because if we didn't earn it, then we're not validated. And this is where this masculine and feminine, and I will be going more into this next year when I do more dating courses and stuff, but this is where this masculine and feminine gets really mixed up in dating and relationships, because we think, oh, let me just continue to prove myself. And in that process of proving myself, it's usually like numbers, or, look how much money I make, or look how much I do, or look how much this is. And like, it emasculates this whole thing and gives this kind of misdynamic between things, and creates this like up and down fucking pogo stick that we like to ride all day without really taking ownership over the fact that it's not that things are chaotic. It's that we don't believe things to be, oh, I can actually go from good to great. I don't need to actually dip below this anymore. This is where I'm staying. This is my choice. But in order to do that, and this is what you're going to see inside of your practice today, inside of like the homework and stuff, is noticing in your body what the true sensations are. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about rejection and abandonment. It's like I could feel different things in my body when I started to walk through this. And I'm going to cover this more throughout today. But it's like when I played with this, like, what's her fucking name? I can't remember. But I was playing with one of the work things. And it was like, okay, if I feel like someone loves me fully for who I am and fully whatever, how does that feel? It's so easy and what have you. That part of my body was like, instantly my body was like, no. Cerebrally, my brain is like, of course, like that is what I want. But like my subconscious programming is like, no, thank you. And I can do as many fucking affirmations as I want, but like my body was like, no. And then feeling into my body of like, well, what does that actually feel like? Like someone to love me fully, what does that feel like? And it was when I noticed in my body, it was like this tight feeling. It was like this clench. And I was like, that's fucked. Okay. But like no judgment. That's just interesting to witness. Right. And then it started to twist it on its head of like, well, what is this fear actually protecting me from? And it's like, oh, the fears of rejection and abandonment. And then feeling into that, what does it feel like to be rejected and abandoned? And I kid you not, it's like I felt it in my clit. I was like, what? And so weirdly enough, that's where that kink aspect comes in, and like diving deeper into that. And that's where the origin story comes in. And you can play with that, where it's like, it was one thing to play with the aspect of, I'd love to be loved and I love to work in it, but to witness what the body actually believes to be safe, which is that rejection and abandonment, which comes from, and we're going to talk about fatherhood wounds and motherhood wounds, but that's where mine stem from. It's witnessing, oh, that's where that came from. Okay, so because that's actually something that's certain to me, like I can be certain about abandonment and rejection. I know how to deal with that because I'm a survivor. I know how to deal with that so fucking well. But if someone were to love me fully, that's actually way too uncertain for me. I don't know that dynamic. And rationally in our heads, we can sit there and we can go, that's what I want. And I know that's what we want. I want something to be consistent. I want something, to be what we quote unquote know as healthy. That. But it's not always that case, because we have trauma, because we have systems, and we don't even need big T trauma. There's just belief systems in our core where we have this like naturally dark, kinky side of us. And it's okay, but it will continually play up in our life if we don't bear witness to it. And so we're going to be diving into that inside of our homework today, because that's the key aspect. And so this is the second thing that I want to talk about, is that people really want this like single journey or relationship recovery or grief recovery or mental health journey or whatever we're labeling, whatever journey we're on right now, as we want it to go a certain way. We want it to go in a way of, if I do this at this rate, at this pace, then by this month, I will have this type of relationship. This will be going on. And we try and create this certainty in something that's uncertain, because you're going on a journey. You're going on a journey of recalibrating your nervous system and reprogramming what your RAS system, which is your reticular activating system, the thing that scans like what's normal and what's not, trying to keep you safe. You're currently on a journey of that. So when we're trying to plan, oh, but I said I was going to, go on a no man diet for this amount of time. which I did. I was like, this is literally how I ended up in this fucking relationship that I'm currently in. I was like, I'm on my single girl summer. Here's my fucking rule book of how I did it, because, you know, I already wrote the script on sacred singlehood, and this is how it's supposed to go, and da 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 da, and all the kind of little chicken nugget things that were inside my head. And then realizing, oh shit, sometimes God has other plans. So I actually can't be fully certain, because I'm actually doing a whole bunch of work to call in the right types of invitations. And so it's really opening up to, where can I be open to magic? Because we also do this with money. We do this with the way our body's supposed to look. We do this, you know, at certain containers and, you know, timelines. We love timelines. If I don't do this by then, and then we're laden with shame. And shame doesn't help our nervous system heal. Shame is going back to, I don't know if you guys saw, I did a live on sex drive and depression and grief. And, you know, biologically what that does to us, which goes back to kind of what we were talking about last time. But I did this. You guys go look on Instagram. I don't know when anyone's watching the replay, but talking about that shame, yes, of course, like it wounds us and like energetically shelters us down, but it also boosts our cortisol levels, which is basically our turnoff nozzle on everything, because we're just pumping with stress hormones, which puts us in our sympathetic, which is not where we want to be when we're in a healing phase. And it's really witnessing these things where it's like, what story are we telling ourselves about how this is supposed to go? Right? And am I doing this right? What rule book am I following? Am I doing this in the right way? And that in and of itself is just straight masculine. Passing or failing, and like the school system really fucked us up on this, because we always want to know, am I doing this right? Have I received enough? Did I study enough? Am I doing this enough a day? Like, we do the checklists. And then if we don't achieve our checklist to create some type of certainty, we're fucked. You know, and it's just witnessing how many times does this show up in our day to day. It shows up to me fucking every hour. Where am I trying to create certainty and I'm not open to magic? Where am I doing this in my current relationship, where it's like everyone has their own timelines and I'm trying to force things because this is how this should be, and I remember this when I first started like dating my last partner, and I think within like a month I had told him I loved him, and he literally like looked at me and he's like, I really appreciate that, but you're just high on hormones right now, which is not something you want to fucking hear, but he wasn't wrong. It's like, I really appreciate that. But the reason that I was like doing it, one, yes, I was high as fuck on hormones. And two, I wanted to create some type of certainty. If you say you love me back then, therefore I am worthy, and I'm not going to be abandoned, and I won't be rejected, and da 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 da. And hello, fast forward a year and a half later. Did not work out in the way that I had planned, because I was trying to force this control. I was trying to force, I've done the work. You're supposed to be my match. You're doing these kind of things. I'm going to create this uber controlled container around how this relationship is supposed to work. Not realizing that all of that is masculine energy. All of it. And when we're in that, we start to really do this polarity dance, and having, you know, two masculines or two feminines, it just doesn't fucking work. But instead of looking at like, this has to go a certain way. I'm in this program, so my relationship is supposed to look this way. I'm, you know, in this space, I'm in this single. It's like, I love the intention, but like the way I've learned in my life, especially because we live in such a fucking like hustle culture, masculine. Let's put these numbers on a board and let's chase them and kumbaya, beat our chest to get there kind of vibe. Like, I've learned the best way to do things in moments of uncertainty and certainty. And we're in these transition periods, and we're investing in programs, and we're doing these things. And, you know, we have these visions, and that's fucking amazing. Like, we're goal-oriented human beings. That's how we got to the places that we're at. You know, we have big visions. We want to change the world. But when it comes to matter of the hearts, and when we're talking about something that is feminine, it's like, can we look at something that's more of like an energetic projection? Instead of, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to talk like how I did. I didn't let men into my house for 2 fucking years. And then all of a sudden I try and date, and I'm like, what is a clitoris? Like, I don't even know what is happening in my body, and I don't know how to relate to other people, because I had built up such a fortress. Right. And so now, like, my biggest lesson in these last 6 months has been like, what is the energetic projection that I want for this? Like, I don't want to just be complacent, right? I want to be surprised. I want to have goals. I want growth. I want magic. I want big things to happen. I want a love story of the ages. And, I still manifest my heart out, but it's like, what is that energetic projection that I want out of this? Who do I want to become on the journey of who I'm becoming? And can I have blind faith in that? Because the other part, I don't know where this is in my notes, so I don't know if this is going to come up later, but the other part about our creating certainty is we're only certain of what we know. Like, that's all the memories that we have in our brain. That's all the, like, everything that we are right now is 95% of a cellular memory of who we've been in our lifetimes based off of our lived experience, or what we've been told, or what we've experienced, or what our parents have experienced and instilled in us. Like, that's all of us. And then we have this like 5% self, like chicken nugget self, that gets to determine where that's all going. But our habits, our belief systems, everything else is in 95%. It's a huge fucking percentage. Doesn't mean it's fucking lost cause. But everything that creates certainty in our life is based on that. And so when we have this need for certainty, but we're so avoidant of uncertainty, it's really looking at like, we don't know yet what we want because we don't have an example of that. When I first started to believe in love and I wanted to see different loves, like, oh, it's 222. I started watching love movies because I wanted to see stuff, not realizing that, like, I said this in like, I think the last, like 2 Sacred Singlehoods ago, and I was telling the story because that's at first how I was doing it. I didn't know. But also, all love stories, they love the damsel in distress. They love the chaos and the breakup and the get back together and these kind of dynamics. And it's like, that helped for one stage, right? Like, that helped me learn one stage of my nervous system to get out of domestic violence and, go do some things, because I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. But then I had to go find things in real life. I had to go find friends. I had to go find, like, even this past weekend, I was visiting a sexy man's parents. And like, I haven't literally never met a family so happy. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, I'm weird. Like, he knows a little bit about my family. I don't disclose a lot because that's my stuff, not his. But like, he was like, so how was this for you? I was like, so nourishing. Like, no one in my family has a relationship like that. No one. Not my grandparents, not my aunts or uncles. No one. Like, no one in my family is even married. Like, everyone's on their like 4th marriage. Like, no one is married still. And so it was like, oh, like, I didn't even know this was something I needed. Because in my brain, still that certainty was the chaos in relationships. Still that certainty was this, there needs to be fighting. There needs to be these kind of things. There needs to be some type of element of addiction, of chaos. And then I was like, wait, actually, I don't want that to be the thing anymore. But being able to witness that and shift that is like, okay, so, because that doesn't just go away. And we'll talk about this more when I talk about sacred rage and, our like little anxious teenager that's still alive in all of us. But like, it's figuring out a way to move that into different areas of our life, right? Like, I know I need like 1 day a week to have just like chaos be me and like let that be. Or like, I'm gonna like pick something like a heated conversation to have with sexy man, and I like preface it where I'm like, I just need to be like a little bit extra right now. Or I work on my body work, and I like have been, I mean, right now I'm at my moon, but like have been doing like 2-a-days or like hitting a gym in a certain way when I can feel things that need to be released and letting the cycle complete in my body. There's different elements of this that allow that to be. I can control these parts of my body. I can do these things, because the one thing that we can't necessarily always control our feelings, but we can control where we're focusing and we control what we're doing. And so, one of the biggest things is like, yes, right now, your heart may be, aching, or things might be going on, or it might be super stressful, or things are very uncertain. And like, especially during the fucking holidays, I don't know when anyone else is going to be watching this, but during the holidays, it can be lonely. It can be a lot. It can be triggering. It can be what have you. But really looking at this is, if this, because it is one of the most legendary moments of your life, what is the story that you're telling about? this moment? How are you showing up for it? How are we transitioning from this chaotic state or this uncertain state or this unknowing state and having a healthy relationship between the two? And witnessing, okay, yes, I realize, I've either been creating too much consistency because I've been wanting so much control that I'm controlling my partners or my diet or my body or my work, and I haven't been like allowing this magic to come through. That can be one way. Or it's the other side of things that it's just like, whoa, kind of blowing it off the handle and like letting chaos run its course. So it's looking at where can I start to shift this and create the outcome that I desire without getting attached to the outcome of how it is. Like your nervous system is going to be shifting a lot in these weeks. And not just even in this program, like I believe we're all in this journey of evolution and growth over a lifetime. Like it's always going to be shifting and really opening the lens to what patterns are coming up and how is my body actually maybe thinking this is like the certain thing that I want, even though that's not what I want. Right? Is that making sense? Where it's like, this is the thing that's coming up in my mind all the time, or this is my relationship conflict that's coming up all the time, or this is my money conflict that's coming up all the time. And we can get frustrated by that, but that's where your brain is creating certainty. That's where your brain is like, I know how to fucking handle this. Safety feels good in the chaos. And weirdly enough, this might be turning me on. Cool. So how can I witness this? How can I actually start to let my body actually complete that cycle and feel it in there? And like, that's going to feel uncertain. That's going to complete these kind of things and kind of navigate that. And so one of the biggest things, so our human needs will sometimes override our values. This is a big thing by Tony Robbins. He has the 6 human needs. Let me pull up my notes over here, which are certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection and love, growth, and need for contribution. And one of the wildest things when you spend a little time studying this, like when you're around people, you can see which one is who they are, like what they're embodying, like what is most important to them. And something Tony talks about is he's like, if you have all 3, like 3 arenas being met, this is where it becomes fluid. I said that weird. What did he actually say? If you want to change your life, willpower doesn't always work, but when something meets 3 of your needs, it's effortless. And this is where he was kind of talking about how when our human needs can sometimes override our values. So our value might be consistency, stability, safety, things like that. But if your human need is, uncertainty and chaos, it's like, okay, well, how's that going to work? Or certainty, and we're stuck in growth, or we're stuck without growth. And this is where he starts to kind of make that thing where he's like, so the first 4 are our personality traits. So certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection, and love. And then if we're stuck in the certainty phase and we don't actually move to the growth and contribution, because everything is predictable and everything is safe and nothing is outside of this new realm of possibility. And so we want to start to explore our relationship with uncertainty and going outside of it. And it's kind of like, I don't remember if it was this program. I think it was a podcast I was on. But yeah, it was on a podcast and they were asking me like, what would you tell your like entrepreneurial younger self? And it's like being naive as fuck. Like, keep that. It's just when you started your business, that's when it was so fun because we were so naive. We were open to all these possibilities. We were doing all these kind of things. It was so easy. It's the same thing with repairing our hearts, repairing our nervous system. We know so many things. We know so fucking much that we get so caught up in these rule books and these things going on, and we forget to believe in magic anymore. And we want to create some type of certainty because this is the way that we're supposed to talk to men. This is the way that we're supposed to date. This is the way that I'm supposed to heal and meditate and sniff the color 9 and do whatever else the rule book says. That we're not approaching this in the same light and freedom of like what actually feels good to my nervous system. Each one is going to be different. That's why I love the fact that we are in an information overload kind of place, but I hear this almost daily, whether it's within my communities or, peer masterminds or whatever. It's like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? How do I communicate this effectively? What am I doing? Because it's not working. And we want some type of certainty and container, and we forget to believe in magic, and we forget to believe in the feminine essence of surprise and being naive and being passionate and being wrong. Like, it's okay. It's so okay. And it's kind of just witnessing. And this is kind of what I want you guys to do. I don't even think this is in your guys' homework, but like listing out those 6 human needs. Which do you feel is the one that's yours? Like, that leads you. Like, for me, I know mine is fucking significance. I'm like, double Libra. Look at me. And definitely want to make an impact and do things like this, but it can also sometimes get in my way because we need to listen to other people and kind of witness that. And I see that in relationships. Like, I've been working on moving through that with relationships after my most recent breakup, because being a judgmental person was definitely something I did, where especially like as an entrepreneur and someone that's in the self-development space and like your partner isn't, we like to think we're fucking right, and we like to think we know better, and we like to put podcasts at just the right spot so that they can listen to it because they need this advice, not us. And building up this whole thing, and it's like, again, going back to, and I'm sure we'll talk about communication here as well, but it's like, where can we be wrong in this scenario? Where can I actually start to witness life through another person's lens? And that's a dating program, but in and of itself, it's looking at which one is your human need and how do you see that impacting your life? Do you see that as an accelerator or a brake for your nervous system? Because an accelerator is like, this is going well, this is feeling good, this is whatever. And we see this, like, we can even see this in sex. Like, a lot of us, when we're, having sex, it's like, whoa, I want to do these kind of things. And then all of a sudden my brain will shut off. That's our brake system. And so our bodies will do these things where we have accelerators and brakes. And sometimes we're doing these things that we don't even know that we're doing in our nervous system, and we're braking, although it should be accelerating us. But because we're so stressed out, or because we have things with work, or we have traumas that have not been completed or resolved yet, our brakes are actually on, happening when our accelerator should be on. What book was that? Let's see, The Reclamation. That's a really good one for anyone struggling with that aspect of intimacy, where understanding our nervous system in that aspect of, here's our traumas, here's our things, here's noticing in our body and our nervous system what's happening and what's accelerating and what's not, which I use a lot of those practices, so you'll probably hear me reference that a lot, but it's a really good book for anyone that wants to read it. The next point is that you create your reality. Your happiness level is completely dependent on who you believe yourself to be. And so as humans, we seek assurance so that we can avoid pain and gain pleasure. But oftentimes, we don't realize that sometimes the pain is the pleasure. Right? Going back to my example of the chaos or the rejection and the abandonment. So my havingness level wasn't actually where I wanted it to be. If I could look at my life and take complete ownership over it, which we're all self-led women, we take ownership over the current situations in our life. Like, looking at my life, it was like every boyfriend had cheated on me. I was dating avoidant men. I had these health issues. I had these financial scares. I had this happening with clients and all this kind of stuff. So looking at, although I wanted the pleasurable things, I wanted the sensuality, I wanted the commitment, I wanted the growth, I wanted all these kind of things, my havingness level was not there. It was, weirdly enough, to turn me on, it was the rejection and abandonment. I actually would have these self-fulfilling prophecies where it's like, oh, it gives me that chase. It gives me that survival complex to try and win them back, to choose me, to do these kind of things, because the deep wound that I have with my father. It was this deep masculine wound of abandonment and rejection and the way that things have gone in our lifetime that then was completing its cycle in my relationships, in my finances. And this victimhood and this survival complex was the thing that was getting in my brain. And the thing is that oftentimes we don't get to know this part of ourselves because we go for quick fixes. We go for things that are quick, that can send messages to our subconscious memory. and create this mechanisms of self-protection that will help us cope. So for example, for me, that was like over exercising, under eating, drinking, partying. Those things would help me for a while. And then it got into the aspect of, I don't want to feel, the shame and the guilt and the rejection. So I'm only going to stick to what I'm good at, which was working. So I threw myself into that and I avoided men for a while. And then it was, I know how to keep it consistent in my life. So I'm going to actually chase these unavailable men because that's predictable. Am I having this? Like that felt good, even though mentally that felt shameful. And so it was just a cycle that kept fucking continuing and continuing and continuing until I paused and took radical ownership over the fact that, hey, this keeps happening. Shame on me. Or one time this happened, shame on you. 2 times, whatever the fuck the phrase is, I don't even know anymore. But 3 times, I'm an idiot or something. That kept happening. And so it's sitting there going, okay, we know enough science. We know enough tools. But a lot of what was said in this arena for me didn't land, where it was like, you're subconscious, you're feeding it this, and this is whatever. But like, it didn't make sense to me until I realized that was actually turning me on. When I started to do these body practices where it was like, okay, I get that this is coming into my life. I get that. But these affirmations I keep writing on my sticky notes and putting everywhere, like, it ain't fucking working. Like, this isn't working for me. What's wrong with me? And then the shame spells would start again. And it wasn't until it clicked in my head where it was like, okay, let me play with those scenarios that I said. And you're going to see it in your homework where I'm asking you this, where it's like, what are the consequences of this not working out? What are the belief systems? What if it did work out? Like, how does that feel in your body? And like playing in the scenario of like, what if it did work out? What if that was the man of your dreams? Clench. What if you woke up every morning and minimum that you made was $1,000? Clench. What if, I don't know, friendships, communication, whatever, clench. So what's underneath that? How can I flip that over? So what if there's this really avoidant person and they don't choose you? Literally a clitoris tingle. And I was like, okay. What if, people actually like you felt happy spending $1,000 a day? Clitoris tingle. What if, certain numbers and, like playing with that. And I was like, okay, I'm trying not to shame, because of course, when I first figured that out, I'm like, I'm broken and something's wrong with me. But like really witnessing it, that like, oh, that's my nervous system. Tell me more, nervous system. Why? Why is this that? Because that's my certainty. My certainty is that I'm more comfortable being rejected, or I was more comfortable being rejected and abandoned than I was being loved and accepted. I was more comfortable in the chaos and the confusion and the guessing that I wasn't trusting myself. I didn't understand that the trust within me was actually the most certain place that I could be, that the presence within me was actually the most certain I could be, most predictable I could be. And so looking at, where are you creating your reality? And what's your havingness level around that? And that's okay. That if it's like dark, why am I telling you guys that mine was dark and twisty, right? Like we have this. It's okay. And once we start to bring light to that part of ourselves, it starts to get fucking silly. Like now when it comes up, I'm like, Laura, that's fucking ridiculous. Like in a silly way, not shaming way. It's just like, even saying it now, I'm like, that sounds ludicrous. Like, what do you mean? And like playing with that idea, but witnessing in your body what's actually happening is how we start to complete these cycles. And you're going to see me talk more about completing the cycles, because when we get into the rage and the forgiveness and completing that, like that's what happens with trauma in our nervous system. Like it just gets stuck, and that's why we repeat it. But the more we can feel it, it's like, oh, for some reason, this is my certainty gauge. This is what feels good. This is what literally makes my clitoris tingle. Okay, that's interesting. How can I get my body to unclench for the things that I want? It's continually witnessing that. Okay, I get it. You're still turned on in this. And you like let your body kind of go through these motions and to feel them and to witness them. And you do the writing practices that I have in here, and like it starts to get neutralized. But it can't be neutralized if it's never witnessed. And oftentimes, this is why I never found talk therapy to be beneficial. I mean, not never, but it hits a fucking wall, you know? Don't want to talk about my parents anymore. But because the body wants to communicate more than the mind can even comprehend, there's a lack of words for what the body is trying to tell you. And so, or there's a lack of, yeah, that was right. There's a lack of words for what the body is trying to tell you. So deep breath. This is the meditation. That's what he always says when he's doing it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forget to breathe. See, I told you I would forget, but hopefully you're still doing these 5 breaths in, 5 breaths out. And so the next one is, we do always get what we deeply desire, but most of us, again, going back to what I was just covering on, we do always get what we most deeply desire, but most of us aren't that aware that much of what we deeply desire is some highly unpleasant, painful, secret, repressed, fucked up things. And it's fine. It is fucking fine. This is why I say every day is Halloween. But like, it goes back to this, like, if we don't witness it, it will live on. It will keep happening, and it might not happen in the same way. We might actually meet a guy that can tolerate this and transmute it with us, you know, but maybe it'll then show up in money, or it'll show up in health things, or it'll show up in client situations, or it'll show up in money, like different kind of scenarios. I think I said money twice there. It'll show up in different kind of scenarios if we don't let it be, if we don't witness our savage and its savagery. This is why I've been saying the word savage a lot lately, because it's like, we have these deep, twisty parts of ourselves. And it's so fucking cool, because these deep parts of us get shit done. They get so much shit done because we're in survival mode, and it's so cool. And I don't think we should shame it. Like, if we do it the wrong way and it's out of misalignment, we can burn ourselves out and get very sick. Hi, that was me 6 years ago. But when we actually can witness it and go, oh, like this weirdly turns me on. How do I want to play with this? What does this give for me? I even saw this when I was working with my money wounds, where I was like, where is my, survival complex and money turning me on right now? Because it's really fucking annoying. I'm really sick of this. These panic attacks, they're not fun. I'm not sleeping at night. How do we move through this? Really witnessing that. It's like, oh, because the thing that was giving me certainty in my body was the fact that if I make too much money, I will become too intimidating to men. And since my father showed me his love through money, I will therefore be unlovable if no one can give me money and bail me out and all these kind of elements. And then I went the complete other route, where then I was dating like these broke people that had no money, and I was taking care of them because I didn't want people to abandon me and reject me. So I like switched this whole thing up and like went from one spectrum to the other, and then witnessing that going, oh shit. Okay, what's the middle ground here then? Right? And witnessing these kind of deep shadow selves, this savage energy, as something we get to play with, not something we're stuck with. Again, your nervous system is like plastic. Yes, if you don't apply heat, it's going to stay that way, but it's plastic. We apply the right sorts of heat and we kind of give it the air that it needs, and mold it into what we need. It's reshaped, right? And it's not to say these things don't happen. Like I said, I still get these weird fucking kinks. Like, they're always with me. It's just a different energy that they give. And now I get to place them in different places, and I get to play with them in my sex life too, which is really fun. But like, we get to witness them and we get to move through them. And so this is where the body work comes in, because if we don't notice in our body what is happening, and we're trying to cerebrally like write these affirmations or to think these things through or whatever, that's where shame spells get in. And so, how are you? Is anything coming up for you? I realize I'm talking so much. Are you good? Good. Okay, cool. Okay, so number 7. We're on 7. What time are we at? Cool. I love this when I don't over talk, because sometimes I do that. So number 7, so many light bulbs. I love that. Sometimes they're high light bulbs, so I got you, but like, I love that. And so number 7 is, most of us live in this void because we fear rejection and abandonment, navigating disappointment and the fears of rejection that lead to disappointment. And so a lot of us, myself included, don't act because if we don't try, then we can't be disappointed. I see this a lot in love and relationships. We go for the mediocre thing because if I actually follow my heart, what if they break it? This is honestly, if I can give you a behind the scenes of my life, like, this is something I had to work through a lot recently. because I really like sexy man, but I had every fucking wall up because I'm like, if my heart gets ripped out twice in 1 year, I might collapse and die. Like, I don't think I can do these kind of things. But really witnessing that, going, okay, so where is this wall being built? Where's my dark and twisty and turn on state kind of coming into play right now? Cool, let me address that, let me do that. And then also not acting, not showing up, not doing the things because what if it doesn't work out? Not really witnessing that the fact that I'm already like business too, like I'm already disappointed. I'm already in that core wound, that feminine wound of like disappointment because I'm not trying. Not realizing like, oh, if I don't try, yes, I might fail, but is it really a failure because I'm learning something? It's really reframing our relationship to failure. But if I'm not trying, then I'm already, disappointed. So what am I going to do? And so we're expecting failure. Oh, well, I knew. I saw this too when, and breakups and certain people that go into that. And oh, well, I knew that one wasn't going to work out. And it's like, why? I just had a feeling. Yes, we can have feelings and intuition, and I'm not going to bypass that. But also, this often is because we didn't give it our full thing. It didn't work out because we didn't give our full selves. We didn't open up. We kept our walls up. We kept our protection mechanisms available. And then all of a sudden, it didn't work out. And you're like, oh, I already knew that. Again, we're a self-fulfilling prophecy. What we believe to be true is what's going to come true. Always and forever and forever and forever. And it's not just what we say. It's how we feel. It's our havingness level that works. And we can see that in every single thing that's happening with us. And it might not be there yet. Right now, it could be something showing up in your life that, we've been doing the work on it. And sometimes it happens overnight. And sometimes it's a progressive thing that's building on top of each other like a ladder. And so it's our belief systems. It's continually repeating these things. It's releasing systems in our body. It's really repatting this stuff, because at the end of the day, like, this one gets me so hyped because it's such a fucking gift to care so much. That's the reverse of this. Like, I remember when I first started dating, and I get hyped about things. I get hyped about fucking everything. Literally, sexy man calls me a puppy because I love everything. He's like, I don't think anyone in this world loves things as much as you love things. Like, you just all things. And I was like, uh-huh. Like, but it wasn't always that way. Like, I lived in a space of literally the only time I felt elation was when I was using drugs. That's why I used drugs. It was I would numb myself enough to feel alive. Like, that's why I did them. And to now be in a space where it's like, I get you. And like, this is why, like, the dating programs and like, I can't wait to make one. But like, the dating programs that I see now are just all around like self-protection and play these games and rotational dating and do this kind of stuff, which fine, cool if that's for you. But like, if you trust yourself so fucking much, that falling on your heart is the safest place to land. That is for certain. That no matter what, you will fall on your heart and you'll pick your fucking self back up. And also, if you've done enough work, that's where your lessons are, and most likely someone will catch it. It might not be at all how you had planned. It might be on your fucking single girl summer and someone just fucking shows up and ruins the plan. But if you love yourself so much, it's okay. But this is like the advice that I hear a lot in the dating world, where it's like, well, don't do too much. Don't be too expressive. But like, that is the feminine essence. The feminine essence is to be delightful and to be playful and to be silly and to do these kind of things. And, it might not be to the fucking magnitude of being described as a puppy, but that part of us, that play, that love, that's the true essence. And sometimes when we've had one too many broken hearts, or we haven't healed things from our past, or we're still navigating stuff from our parents, and, we have the scares of finances or work, or we're under like all these kind of things, we forget that the gift is to care, to really fucking care about something and be so fucking passionate about it. Like, that is the essence of being alive, to feel everything so immensely. Like, that's something that I wish more people trusted themselves on. Because at the end of the day, it's not that someone or something or whatever comes into our life and is like, here, now it's a safe place for you to feel your heart. Sure, maybe. But more often than not, it's you choosing that. It's you opening up that portal. It's you sitting and going, okay, I get that I might get disappointed. I get that I might even be rejected. I might even be abandoned. But do I trust myself enough that I'm okay? Always, no matter what. And if that answer isn't no, or if that answer is no, that's where we lean in, right? Like if I can look back at my relationship, like that brought me to it changed everything in my body, everything in my life, the way I view the world, everything about myself, everything, every part of safety that I felt in that that he was shifting all the way that I felt about men and everything. And I wouldn't take a beat of that back ever, because I learned how caring for someone so deeply is such a fucking gift. Did it hurt? Oh, fuck yeah. Does it still sometimes? Oh my God, yeah. Should have saw me on the plane over to fucking sexy man's house, and I was like, I'm having this conundrum where I'm like comparing these kind of things in my head, and I'm like, what's happening? Like very real things still happen. Like it's such a weird thing to like unlove someone while falling for another. Like it's very interesting. But if I can look back at that relationship, it's like, yeah, like there are so many things I can be upset about, but like the biggest lesson is like, wow, a heart can really love so much. And what a gift that is to bring to the world. And like, that's what I want people to get out of this program. That's what I want you to get out of this program, is like to let that play, let that delight, let that part of yourself come forward, instead of whatever it is that keeps us protected in relationships, whatever keeps us in this control, keeps us in our certainty, truly stepping into this self-trust in such a different way. Because I know so many women in our field trust themselves to do everything in their business. So we kind of get a little soft and a little heart and chicken nugget tenders of love. If I let myself fall so deeply and let myself be seen so deeply and do this thing in the way that I want, like, one, will it fuck up my business and take me away from my business? Two, like, what if? And we get lost in what if. And it's like, there isn't necessarily a what if you already know you're the safest place to land. And knowing that at your core, not just saying it in affirmations or in meditation for the 1 hour that we do a day, like knowing that. That's where risk isn't necessarily like, it's scary. Of course it is. And like, that's where vulnerability and vulnerability hangovers come in. And like, that's the scary thing, especially as entrepreneurs and leaders. It's like, I don't want to be vulnerable because that'll make me seen as weak. But it's like, that's your true essence. The gift of your care and your joy and your passion and like your understanding, like that's the essence of being alive. And so really stepping into that is one of the biggest things in practicing that. And when we're sitting in these spaces of uncertainty and certainty, and it's really learning about blind faith, right? And blind faith comes from confidence. And so I was in church the other day, and something they had said was, you want certainty when all God wants you to do is build your confidence, and you can't have both. And I had shared, I wish I had my phone right now, because I shared something in my freaking story, and I don't know how, I like more freaking feedback in one post than I have in ages around that, because it's so true. It's like when we're sitting in these spaces, because we can get so upset when things are shifting, when we're stuck in this in-between moment. A lot of us fucking hate it. I don't know anyone that really likes it. We call it like the messy middle, the in-between, the gray area. Like everyone's like, get me the fuck out of here. I want to be certain again. But what if the reframe of that was like, what if God is gifting you this because he's trying to build your confidence in yourself right now? What if he's just trying to shake things up because he saw that you were comfortable? You were definitely certain in the old patterns, and you were doing the kind of things that kept you safe and doing the kind of things, but that's not going to get you to where you want to go. That got you here. That got you out of survivor into healing, sure. But we have bigger dreams than that, don't we? We have bigger things that we want to do in life. And so getting comfortable whenever things are uncertain, because if you're choosing this path, you're choosing uncertainty. Nothing in life is certain other than death. That is it. Every other thing is magic. Every other thing gets to be this building of confidence to invite you to be this next layer of yourself. And so sitting in this navigating this part of in between and really witnessing, who am I becoming on the journey of who I'm becoming, right? Like, what parts of myself am I okay to dismantle? What parts of myself am I wanting to shift and mold and really take radical ownership that I haven't been showing up in my full light because I've been too afraid of being seen. I was too afraid that I wasn't unlovable because the stories of my past or the things that have been happening. And, I didn't want to really be activated in this way because what if they view me in a different light? It's like we get trapped in this stuff all the fucking time. But really, when I heard that, I was like, fuck. Fact. I don't think you're allowed to say that at church, but I did. It's such a portal. How you navigate those in-between moments is where you build your confidence. Always. Because it helps you to learn that the only thing that is ever for certain is how you show up for yourself day in and day out. The only thing that is ever for certain is the way you use your tools to control your focus. Because the fact of the matter is, you can't change your fucking feelings. You can't. Like, yes, we can change the states of our body and we can release and we can change and we can do these kind of things. But a feeling is going to come because you smelled something, because you heard a song, because something happened. But the problem is we create a narrative around the feeling that we're feeling. And when we're feeling all these kind of things, we start to then get lost in the narrative of what that means. When the choice that we have, the thing that we have for certain is, what am I focusing on? Who do I want to be right now? How do I want to shift the narrative that's happening? Is there a way that I can just let my body feel these things without the narrative getting in it? I don't know. That's definitely a hard practice. Let me know if you nailed that one. But like, sometimes that does happen and we let ourselves go. I remember when I first started my trauma work, like 4 years ago, I want to say, like, I used to literally set a timer on my phone for like 15 minutes where I would let my brain get into a fucking state. Let it rip. Let every scenario come out of my brain. I would journal it. I would speak it. I would do that. And then once that 15-minute was up, I'd go and I'd do something that brought me pleasure. Because sometimes the human just needs to be a fucking human. And I really think, like, at least in the trauma space for me, this is why I created this program, because people don't fucking talk about that shit. It's like, no bad feelings, no whatever. Like, there's no container. And it's like, or they love the shadow so much that like that's a lot of the work, where I'm like, actually a shadow can be a turn on state and it can make your clitoris tingle. It's a weird fucking thing that can happen, but like there's a different way of doing things that haven't been done. We just have to bring the focus to that part. And it's like, we can't change our feelings, we can change our focus. So if we're feeling this frustration of this in-between period of like, what is it? And especially in between, as fucking successful women, sometimes, and this might just be me, but I'm going to speak to my literally last week's self. Sometimes when we're in a like in between moment, it's like this, like, oh, but I should have it figured out. So therefore I'm feeling shameful because I should figure it out. I'm a leader in this industry and I'm doing this and whatever. And I should figure this out. This shouldn't be something I deal with. And it's like, who fucking said? Everyone, like, none of us have a clue what's going on. But the people that get through things is the fact that they have built their confidence in that in between period. They know that their life, this is the commitment to their life. Every moment is uncertain. Because every moment can be magic, and they have to, as they're believing in magic, it's holding the potentiality that it also might be canceled. It also might be some shitty person on the internet, like Lauren that we saw. It also could, like, holding these energetic standards and these energetic projections are like, yes, I believe in magic, but for things to happen, I also have to be okay with this thing happening. And the people that are fucking rocking this are the ones that are confident in themselves to hold both. Always. And that's the navigation between the uncertainty and certain. Where can I start to create certainty within my uncertainty? Certainty within my uncertainty. Yeah, that was right. Where can I start to, what is my stable ground in that? Because life, growth, commitment, relationships, money, business, family, like all of it. Everyone's a fucking loose cannon. No one knows what's happening between anyone else's 6 inches between their ears. But you get to control that. And so this is where we get to quiet our mind and open our heart. and stop shutting off our magic. Like, your heart is the safest place to land. That's why breathing, that's why focusing on where can I be present instead of just those moments when we close our eyes. Yes, the most beautiful things, we've all seen that fucking meme. The most beautiful things happen when your eyes are closed. Yes, got it. Orgasms, makeouts, all the kind of things. But also the coolest things happen when your eyes are open and you're present here and you're creating certainty in the present moment instead of getting lost in the narratives from the past because of the trauma and the stories that we've built up that are stuck in our freaking hippocampus. Like, if we can really sit in this present moment, what am I feeling? What state of my body am I sitting in right now? Is that part of my body able to receive the present moment? If not, do I have to shift that? Am I okay with that? Like you said, you're in the ER phase. Perfect. But you're receptive. You're here, right? Like, there's a different type of shutdown and isolation that can happen in an ER phase, right? Where we disassociate. Or sympathetic. Like I said, most times I live in my sympathetic. Sometimes that's not the best for certain environments. You know, it's sitting in these spaces. Is it ventral? Is the connection? Am I at a dinner party? Do I just need to kind of be regulated at all forces right now? Yeah. But having these tools in our back pocket and playing with this, and then doing that back end work of like, okay, so what is my match? What is my certainty? What is my uncertainty? What's coming up in my body? These tools, I kid you not, have changed everything for me in relationships and business and communication and skills. Like, I've even started, like, I don't know what's even happened in my life that I signed up for this, but like I don't know when our last expand call was, like 2 weeks, like before 2 weeks ago when I was like on one. But like ever since then, this has been something I've just been practicing where it's like everything starts to make sense. Everything is a match for our nervous system. Everything has these weird, kinky, fucked up things that happen. And also there's this delight. And when we start to bring our body into that, like everything starts to shift and change. I felt the old pattern of wanting to go deep down the hole, come up, and was able to work with it. I love that. And I'm like just so honored and proud of you and all that you're doing. And you are literally in the in-between part right now. You are in it, literally, and you are fucking crushing it. And you're here and you're doing the mind work and the body work and the growth and the things. And I see you and I witness you, and like the world ain't even ready for you. Holy heck, my friend. Like, just kind of sitting in those burritos and just like fucking butterflies, you know? They turn into, what happens with butterflies? Don't they just like silk out? Like, they literally like have to disintegrate and go into like mush. Yeah. And then they turn into butterflies. I'm mush. Exactly. And like, that's what it is. And so really kind of utilizing these tools. And so navigating the in-between, that's what this is. This is the core of this work. It's understanding your body. It's understanding that there is no right. There's releasing the shame. It's cultivating the confidence in these moments, because one thing I can almost guarantee is you'll revisit this again. Not this that you're going through, but more uncertainty at different levels, because it is a growth portal. And so I really, truly, when I heard that at church the other day, where it was like, God is like, you're saying uncertainty. Like, you're sitting and saying like, holy fuck, I'm so over this uncertainty. When the fuck am I going to get my answers? Da, 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 da. When God is saying, I want you to build your confidence. And that landed. And I really wanted to share that with this in this space today. So I love you. Do you have any questions or anything? Okay. Well, if you do, you know, we got WhatsApp and all the things. So I will see you on Thursday. I love you so much. Enjoy your cozy burrito town. All right, baby. Bye. I love you.